We have the front trusses on the house, and now we're going to put the rest of the house trusses on. Okay, so a good place to start would be the gables. We have two gables, two T3 gables. One will go on this bearing wall, and one will come over here on the wall that divides the house from the garage, each of them on the outside edge of the wall with reference to the house. So let's put this one on first. And to do that, I'm going to select it. I'm going to move it, and I'm going to select the bottom right-hand corner here because that's the corner that goes on the outside edge of the house. And so I'll set it on the outside edge of the house, right at the corner. And there we go. And now, like all the trusses, it needs to overhang the house by a 1/2 inch. So I'm going to move it out the green axis 0.5, and that sets it there. Now, we do want to make sure that it's in the right place. And so let's take a look at where it intersects or where it meets up with the girder. It should be right at the edge of the girder. And it looks like we've set the girder in the perfect spot, and that truss ends right at the edge of the girder. So we're good on that one. Now we'll set the other one. Now the other one's going to sit on this left side of this wall that divides the house from the garage. So I'm going to select the gable, and then I'll zoom in and select the move and select the lower left corner here. And then I think I don't have a point where I can set it out here. So I think what I'll do is I'll snap it to this intersection right here. Okay, right there. Now it's in place as far as from side to side here. It's on the outside edge of that wall, which is the outside edge over here. Now I could set it with this end. That might even be easier. So I can just grab, whoops, I can snap or select that corner of the bottom of the truss, snap it to the corner of the wall here, and then I can move it a 1/2 inch to the left along the green axis. And that overhangs a 1/2 inch there, which is where it's supposed to be. And the other side should look the same way. Okay, that looks great. Our gables are in place. Now I'm going to start the truss layout. According to the plans, these trusses are all flat in through the bedrooms. And then we start with scissor trusses out here. So we have a vaulted ceiling in the living room and kitchen. These are the scissor trusses. I'm just going to move it out of the way for now. Just bring it over here and set it right there. And then this is the flat bottom trusses. If you'll notice, there's no overhang on this side, and there is an overhang on this side. So the side with no overhang is the one that goes against the girder. And then the side with the overhang extends out over the house here on the back side. So we need to place them at 2-foot centers, and these we want to make sure they get correct because we're going to need to maintain that spacing all the way through for our plywood. And so we're going to use a guideline just the way we've always done it. If you have a different method for doing it, that's fine, as long as they're at the correct center. Otherwise, your plywood is not going to work out. Once you get, the first piece will be cut odd anyways, but from there on, they all have to be centered correctly. So I have a guideline at 24 inches from the outside edge of the house. Now I'm going to make sure this truss is at the center. The center of this truss is at that guideline. So I'm going to come in again like I did on the other truss, and I'm going to find the midpoint at the butt cut here. So I'm going to find the midpoint, which is right there. And I'm going to, well, first I need to move it. So I select it and go move. And then, oh, there we go. Find the midpoint. There it is. And then I can move it over to the guideline that I put in right here. I'm looking for that intersection. Looks like we've got it. Now just to double check, looks like that guideline goes right through the center of the truss. All I need to do now is move this truss to the right a 1/2 inch along the green axis, 0.5. There we go. Okay, now the truss is in place. What I want to do now is to do an array. I want to copy this truss. So I go move, the control button for copy, and then I slide the truss over along the red axis, and I say 24 because it's going to be 24 inches now. And then I'll say times, I don't know, 6. I'm not sure how many I need. I'll know here in a minute. It looks like we still have an area here that's potentially vaulted. So I got one truss too many. So if you do a times 5, it'll work out better for you. Okay, there we go. So we have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 trusses in here. And now we're going to start with our scissor trusses. Now the scissor trusses are the ones that have, there's 2 different kinds. There's one out here that has an overhang on both ends. That's the S1. And there's one that has the overhang only on one side. So for this area where these scissor trusses are going to butt into the girder truss, we need these ones that don't have an overhang on one side. Okay, so we want to place the truss 24 inches from this one. And so I'm going to put a guideline in, and I'm going to put that guideline from the left side of the truss over along the red axis, 24 inches. Okay, and that's where the left side of the scissor truss will sit. So I'll select the scissor truss, and I'll select the left corner of the bottom cord here. I'm going to move it, select the left corner of the bottom cord, and that will go right at the intersection of that guideline and the plate. Guideline I just put in and the plate. So it's right here. That's going to sit right at that intersection. Make sure I get it at the right spot. There we go. Once again, I've got to move it out because it needs to sit a ½ inch over the wall, cover the plywood. And now we have our first scissor truss in place, 24 inches from the columns. We're maintaining the same layout all the way from this right side of the back of the house over to the other gable. Now, it looks like we're going to need 1, 2, 3, probably 4 more of these trusses. So I'm going to do an array here. I'm going to move and copy. And I'm going to copy this truss, and I'm going to go along the red axis. And I'm going to go 24 inches on center, 24 enter, times 4. I'm not sure if that's the right number, but we'll find out here in a minute. It looks like it is the right number. Okay, that's the last truss that'll need to have no overhang on this side. From here on, the scissor trusses will have overhangs. So we'll use the S1 truss instead of the S1A. Notice how the scissor trusses sit right over that wall that we put in. That looks really good. They form a vaulted ceiling for the living room and for the kitchen and dining room area. And we're continuing our spacing at exactly 24 inches on center. So now I'm going to put another guideline in so I know where to put my next scissor truss, my S1s. I'm going to come off of the seat cut here of the scissor, the red axis, 24 inches, and I'm on the left side of the truss. And so I need to make sure I put this next scissor truss, snap the left side of it to the new guideline that I just put in. Here's the scissor truss I'm going to use. So I'll select it and hit move. I'll select the left side, the corner of the seat cut on the truss. Bring it over to the guideline that I just put in. Snap it right to the wall. There you go. And staying consistent, we need to move that truss out along the green axis, 0.5. Okay, there we go. Now, as far as quantity, how many we need to fill in till we get to the gable truss, I'm not sure. I'm thinking maybe 6 of them. So I'm already in the move command. I'll hit my control for copy. I'll slide it along the red axis. and I'll go 24 inches, and I'll say times 6, and we'll see how many we had. Looks like 6 was one too many, so times 5 would be just about perfect. Okay, I'll select that last one and delete it because we don't need it. And there we have all of the trusses for our house. And if you look down, that's the nice thing about SketchUp. If you do it right, and you look down that roof and everything is perfectly straight. See that? You'll never see anything like that in real life because real lumber isn't perfectly straight, but that looks wonderful. Okay, it's exactly what we want. You notice that the gables are shorter than the other trusses. That's because they're a low profile gable, and I'll show you why they're built that way. They're built that way on purpose, and I'll explain that after we put in the garage trusses.